She never stole anyone's husband. She only went after men whose wives were already too exhausted to hold on to them. Imagine being an 18-year-old girl. You've just placed the most prestigious crown in Hong Kong on your head. And in that very moment of triumph, you realize a chilling truth. The very thing that brought you here would only remain useful for another 10 years or so, and you had nothing else to replace it with. For nearly the next 20 years, the name Michelle Reis appeared in Hong Kong tabloids more often than it appeared on the posters of her own films. People called her a billionaire hunter. They branded her the ultimate mistress. They said hers was the name that drove Hong Kong's wealthy wives to sleeping pills. She heard every word of it. And what was most unsettling was that she never even bothered to respond. So why did a beauty queen, widely regarded across Asia as one of the most beautiful women of her generation, fail to win a single truly respectable acting award over the course of several decades? Why would a woman this intelligent willingly accept the role of the villain in the story of her own life? And what happened inside that battered, leaking, tin-roofed home all those years ago that shaped her into the person she would become? Hello everyone, and welcome to Crime Confidential, where we recount and analyze every hidden corner of the lives of famous Asian stars. Please keep in mind that the material presented here has been collected and compiled from many different sources, so if there's anything that needs to be corrected, we welcome your feedback. Since 1973, the Miss Hong Kong pageant has created dozens of rags-to-riches legends, young women who stepped onto the stage from poor neighborhoods and walked off it into completely different lives. But there's one thing that stage never tells you. The crown only opens a door. Which road you choose once you walk through it is entirely up to you. Some use it to build a respectable career. Some use it to find a decent husband, and others use it like an access pass, a way to walk straight into a social class they were never born into. Today's central figure is Michelle Reis, born in Hong Kong in 1970. And to understand the full story, we have to go back to the beginning, to a place where there was nothing glamorous at all. Her father was Portuguese, raised in Hong Kong, and worked in the fur trade, while her mother was a beautiful woman of Shanghai descent. From the very beginning, their cross-cultural marriage was fiercely opposed by her mother's family. And looking back, they had their reasons. In the early years, things were still relatively peaceful. Her mother longed for a complete family, and in time she gave birth to 2 daughters, the older one, Joanna Francisca Reis, and the younger, Michelle. But with more children came greater burdens, and their father began coming home less and less often. Her mother struggled to keep everything together on her own, going out to earn money during the day and returning home at night to care for the 2 girls. Poverty, relentless exhaustion, and deep differences in lifestyle and values gradually turned arguments into an everyday occurrence. Then, over time, even the arguments gave way to silence. Then one day, their father had an affair and left. No goodbye, no financial support, and after that, no word from him at all. The mother and her 2 daughters were left behind together in an empty home. Anyone who's grown up in circumstances like that understands that the deepest wound isn't the lack of money. It's the fact that a child learns far too early a lesson that stays with them. A man can disappear at any moment, and nothing in this world is ever truly guaranteed. The 3 of them moved into a rundown shack with a leaking roof. In summer, it was stiflingly hot. In winter, the wind slipped through every crack in the walls. And whenever it rained, water pooled across the floor. Michelle even had to stand beside her mother holding an umbrella while she cooked, because otherwise the rain leaking through the roof would ruin the family's entire pot of rice. Those hardships became deeply etched into Michelle's memory. Her mother was strong-willed and fiercely proud, and she never once complained about the hardship in front of her daughters. She simply kept working, quietly pouring most of what she earned into tuition at Maryknoll, an expensive school that children from poor families would normally have little chance of attending. As for herself, she lived with almost punishing frugality, refusing to spend even a single dollar on her own needs. The younger daughter was bright, obedient, and mature beyond her years, but beneath that surface was a deeply introverted and sensitive child. And beyond the troubles at home, there was something else that made her feel out of place among everyone around her. She was simply too beautiful. At school, the other girls didn't want to be friends with her, and throughout all her school years, she never had a single close friend. And yet, that one advantage would eventually become the only thing that opened a path forward for her. Michelle had already caught the attention of talent scouts when she was just 3 years old. They invited her to appear in an advertisement for infants, saying that this child had been born for the camera. Her mother refused, believing she was far too young and should be allowed to study and grow up normally first. At 12, someone approached her again, and this time she filmed the second commercial of her life. Then at 14, when the financial pressure on the family became so severe that there was no longer any other choice, she had to balance school with commercial modeling. Her first modeling job paid her 600 Hong Kong dollars, no small amount for the family at the time. And from that day forward, the 14-year-old girl became one of the household's main sources of income. At school, talent scouts constantly stopped her to offer movie roles or commercial work, but she turned them all down. Because at the time, her dream was to become a flight attendant. But if her life had gone in that direction, perhaps no one today would even know who she was. And no one would have spent the next 30 years cursing her name. In 1988, encouraged by friends and family, she decided to enter the Miss Hong Kong pageant with the modest hope of simply achieving a respectable result. On the night of the finals, she was so nervous that her legs were trembling, causing her to lose the Miss Photogenic title. Backstage, she sat down crying and said she wanted to quit. Her mother then said something that may have shaped the rest of her life. "If you back away every time things get difficult, you will never accomplish anything in your life." She wiped away her tears, walked back onto the stage, and in the end, the crown was placed on her head. But she didn't win just one competition. She also took home the Miss International Goodwill title, then went on to compete in Miss Chinese International, where she won both the crown and the Miss Photogenic Award. 4 beauty titles within 12 months, a record that stunned all of Hong Kong. Media tycoon Run Shaw personally presented her with flowers, while the press couldn't stop writing about her. Overnight, an unknown schoolgirl disappeared, and in her place stood a star. At the time, her salary was 30,000 Hong Kong dollars a month, enough to move her entire family into a completely different life within just a few months. And it was in that very moment that she came to understand something many beautiful young women would never dare admit. Beauty was an asset. And if it was an asset, then it had to generate a return. The only question left was who would pay the highest price for it. And it has to be acknowledged that TVB and the Hong Kong film industry gave her opportunities most people could only dream of. At 19, she made her television drama debut. Then came A Chinese Ghost Story 2, alongside Leslie Cheung and Joey Wong, where her role as Fu Yueqi was enough to make her name stand out after a single appearance. By 1992, Swordsman 2, in which she appeared, had become a classic, and her portrayal of Yue Lingshan, a woman who dared to love and dared to hate, is still remembered by audiences today. The mid-1990s marked the brightest period of her acting career. She starred opposite Andy Lau in Casino Tycoon 2, played Louis Ting Ting in Fong Sai Yuk, and then transformed into the successor of the Medicine King in Drunken Master 3. Each role left its own impression on audiences. In 1995, director Wong Kar-wai chose her for the art film Fallen Angels, opposite Leon Lai, and every time the two appeared together in the same frame, the screen seemed to light up. The ingredients were all there: beauty, opportunity, top directors, top co-stars. And yet, over 3 decades, her awards cabinet remained empty. Strong roles became fewer and farther between, and eventually the leading directors stopped calling her name. At some point, people almost forgot that she'd ever been a real actress, and no one forced her into that outcome. It was her own choice, because she'd discovered another arena where beauty could generate returns far faster than movies ever could. The first man on the list, however, turned out not to be a billionaire at all, but Ni Chen, the son of Ni Kuang, one of Hong Kong's 4 great talents. The advertising company Michelle was signed to at the time belonged to a longtime friend of Ni Kuang, and it was through that connection that the two met. She was 18, at the height of her youthful beauty, while he was 24 and fell for her at first sight. Coming from a literary family, he courted her through words. Love letters arrived constantly. Romantic surprises were arranged one after another, leaving the young woman who'd only just entered adulthood completely captivated by his apparent maturity. But then she won the crown, and her career shot straight into the sky while he remained firmly on the ground. The distance between them grew wider and wider. She began to find his increasingly obvious patriarchal behavior impossible to tolerate, while he could no longer handle the pressure of having a girlfriend who was many times more famous than he was. In the end, they parted on good terms, and Ni Chen later married beloved actress Vivian Chow. Michelle Reis, meanwhile, turned around and walked away, and from that moment on, she never looked down again. The second man was a name that needed no introduction in Hong Kong: Joseph Lau. He was already married, and his list of romantic entanglements was so long that the press practically needed charts just to keep track of it, with women such as Ada Choi, Rosamund Kwan, and Catherine Hung among the names linked to him. So when a newly crowned beauty queen caught his eye, it was almost as inevitable as the sun rising every morning. His way of pursuing her was almost brutal in its simplicity, money combined with an extremely calculated kind of attentiveness. Whenever she craved a late-night snack, he'd immediately go out and get it for her. And on one occasion, when the building lost power, he climbed more than 20 flights of stairs himself just to hand-deliver her food while it was still hot. When she complained that she had too many clothes and nowhere to put them, he said nothing and simply gave her an expensive villa. On Valentine's Day, he paid for the entire front page of a major newspaper just to publicly declare his feelings for her. But what truly broke through her defenses wasn't the money. When she told him regretfully that she'd never been able to study abroad because her family was poor, he hired a university professor to tutor her privately. When she was rushing to the airport, only to find the area around her home flooded and the elevators out because of a power failure, he rolled up his sleeves and carried her luggage for her like a porter. For a young woman who'd grown up without a father, those things weren't simply gifts. It was the first time in her life that a man had been willing to carry her things for her. And just like that, all her defenses came down. But she soon realized that she'd entered into an arrangement with absolutely no exclusivity clause. He remained as much of a womanizer as ever. Beautiful women continued to surround him, and she had to put in 100 times more effort just to hold on to her place, only to discover that in the end, she couldn't hold on to it at all. According to Hong Kong media reports from that period, she began losing patience in a way that didn't look good. It was said that she called his home directly and openly flirted with him, and even phoned his wife, Po Wing Kam, and hurled harsh words at her. By then, her intention to force the issue had become obvious, and she made little effort to hide it. Ironically, Po Wing Kam was known for being remarkably tolerant and had reportedly coexisted relatively peacefully for years with a long succession of other women in her husband's life. But this particular woman was someone she could no longer endure. In the end, Po Wing Kam was the one who asked for a divorce, with one condition. The woman who had hurt her was never to be allowed into the Lau family home. And this is where the entire story becomes most ironic. Michelle had managed to push the wife out of the game. Every obstacle seemed to have been cleared away. Yet in the end, she still couldn't take the wife's place. Because for a man like Joseph Lau, cutting down one tree never meant he intended to stay behind and protect the entire forest. Once she saw that truth for what it was, she ended things in a single phone call, packed up her belongings, and disappeared from his life. But the bill had already come due. After that affair, her reputation went into free fall, and the label attached to her then is one she's never fully managed to shake, even to this day. What followed was a long stretch of time that, if you arrange the events in chronological order, reveals a pattern repeating itself with almost unbelievable consistency. After a brief period out of the spotlight, she became the subject of dating rumors involving superstar Leon Lai. The two worked together several times and were once photographed having dinner together, which delighted fans, but Leon Lai consistently maintained that they were only friends, and the story quickly faded away. Then, in 1997, she was rumored to be involved with Law Siu-fai, known as a real estate prodigy, a man who'd already amassed a fortune valued at $2 billion while still only in his 20s, and who was also a sworn brother of Joseph Lau himself. But his good fortune didn't last. The Asian financial crisis struck, dealing a severe blow to his business, and Michelle's name immediately disappeared from the articles written about him. In 1998, she tried a relationship with a male model 5 years younger than she was, but it lasted only 6 months before coming to an end. The explanation given was that the two had very different ways of thinking, and that his lack of maturity left her without the sense of security she needed. From that point on, no one on her list came from outside the world of the ultra-rich. In 2004, she became involved with Qin Hui, the owner of Beijing's notorious Passion Club nightclub. Their relationship was kept extremely private. They often reserved entire restaurants inside exclusive private clubs just so they could meet in peace, and there were even rumors that they'd secretly become engaged. But later, he became caught up in an investigation connected to a crackdown on vice. And once again, she withdrew at just the right moment, cutting off all ties with her former partner. In 2005, she was spotted dating a married businessman, and the two were reportedly alone together in a hotel for 14 straight hours. It was said that the man had asked for a divorce several times because of her, but in the face of fierce opposition from his mother, he ultimately chose to return to his family. When the public began questioning her, Michelle responded with a familiar explanation. She said that the man had deceived her, and that she'd believed he was still single. 18 years, 6 men, and not a single ticket that carried her safely to shore. By the time she was 36, in the game she had chosen to play, the clock was running out. And that was exactly when Julian Hui appeared, the grandson of shipping magnate Hui Oichao and also the former son-in-law of casino tycoon Stanley Ho. He too carried a complicated romantic past. He'd once loved Karina Lau deeply enough that the two had even discussed marriage, only to break up under pressure from his family. In 1991, under an arrangement made by his father-in-law, he married Pansy Ho in a wedding of the century that shocked the entire city. But for both of them, it was essentially a business alliance with no real love behind it. So how did Michelle meet him? The answer was through his girlfriend at the time. The two women were close friends and both enjoyed going sailing. And as it happened, Julian Hui's family owned a yacht. So his girlfriend would casually invite her best friend to come along. The outcome is probably easy to guess. And the Chinese even have an expression for situations like this: inviting a wolf into your own home. In 2006, their relationship was exposed by the media. At the time, Julian Hui and Pansy Ho were already separated, and their marriage was effectively over, but the divorce hadn't yet been finalized. Technically, that meant the old label was once again attached to Michelle. She didn't bother arguing against it. Instead, she openly appeared by his side and showed off their relationship without trying to hide it. But this time, the way she handled things was completely different from the headstrong 20-year-old she'd once been. She was no longer confrontational. Instead, she became discreet, gentle, composed, and almost frighteningly patient. When she learned that he preferred a quiet life, she dramatically reduced her workload so she could stay by his side. And when she realized how deeply the Hui family cared about appearances, she tucked away every sharp edge and presented herself as a graceful, capable, and devoted woman. 2 years of patiently maintaining that role finally paid off. In 2008, Julian Hui officially proposed to her. And at around the same time, Pansy Ho publicly announced that she'd signed the divorce papers. The final door into the Hui family had opened. That same year, the couple registered their marriage in the United States before holding a lavish wedding in Hong Kong that cost nearly 100 million Hong Kong dollars, sending shockwaves through the entire city. People joked that on that day, the wives of Hong Kong's wealthy elite all breathed a collective sigh of relief because the billionaire hunting machine had finally stopped running and their forest was safe again. Stanley Ho, Julian's former father-in-law, offered his congratulations from a distance, implying that his former son-in-law might still marry another 8 or 10 times. Michelle refused to back down and shot back by wishing him 1,000 years of life. Their verbal sparring quickly became a hot topic that remained in the headlines for quite some time. And once she had made it through the door, she didn't simply sit back and enjoy the benefits. By then, she already understood the unwritten rules of powerful families all too well. A mother's position rises through her child. In 2011, at the age of 40, and after considerable effort, she gave birth to a son with Julian Hui. From that point on, her position within the Hui family became virtually unshakable. Once everything had settled into place, she gradually reduced her public appearances, shifted her focus toward her family and child, and quietly stepped away from the entertainment industry. There's one thing even the people who dislike her most have to admit. She was good at far more than just dealing with men. As early as 1996, when Hong Kong cinema was going through a downturn while the real estate market was booming, she began investing in property and made 26 million Hong Kong dollars in just 1 year. The press nicknamed her the Queen of Property Flipping, placing her alongside Stephen Chow, who at the time was being called the King of Property Flipping. Later, she continued using her resources and judgment to take part in other investments and accumulated a considerable fortune. There was nothing ordinary about the way her mind worked, and perhaps that's exactly why people could dislike her and still be forced to respect her. In recent years, even though she's largely disappeared from public view, every new piece of information about her still has the power to stir up controversy. In 2022, she revealed that she'd suddenly developed severe breathing difficulties in the middle of the night and had to be rushed to the hospital, where she received emergency treatment for nearly 2 hours. Doctors even told her that if she'd arrived just a little later, her life might not have been saved. But as soon as the news spread, many internet users responded with a single word: karma. The comment sections quickly turned into a courtroom, with people once again dragging up the romantic scandals from her 20s. Perhaps that's the real punishment she's had to live with. It isn't poverty, and it isn't failure. It's the fact that no matter how long she lives, how well she maintains her appearance, or how many elegant photographs she occasionally posts on social media, the shadow of her past still sits heavily behind her and refuses to leave. Looking back over more than half a century of Michelle Reis's life, she appears to be a perfect contradiction, yet so completely at ease with herself that it makes other people uncomfortable. She never pretended that she didn't care about money or status. Quite the opposite. She wanted them, she said so openly, and she went after them until she got what she wanted, accepting the price of decades of public criticism without bargaining over it for even a moment. There's no single standard that can neatly measure a life like this. Because the little girl who once stood holding an umbrella over her mother while she cooked had learned something very early. This world gives nothing away for free, and a man can walk out of your life without needing a reason. For the rest of her life, she searched for only one thing: a source of security that could never collapse. In a game where the rules had been written by men, she refused to remain a chess piece and fought for the right to choose her own moves, even if society approved of none of those choices. Now, well into her 50s, perhaps the praise and condemnation from the outside world can no longer reach her at all. The story of Michelle Reis leaves behind an old question, but one that's never stopped being relevant. When a woman uses herself as the capital with which to buy security, is she ultimately the manipulator? Or is she the victim of a system that taught her this was the only path available? And if you put yourself in the place of that 18-year-old girl back then, with only what she had in her hands, which path would you have chosen? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd really like to hear your perspective on this story. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.